So I'm trying to get a multi-camera rig set up here for Zone on the gear so that I will be able to render the far stuff monoscopically, thus saving a bunch of CPU resources, and rendering the near stuff, or particularly the cockpit and the heads-up display, in stereoscopic. I'm hoping I can maintain a high frame rate by saving a lot of that double rendering for stuff that's well, I don't want to do it for stuff that's so far away. It doesn't really add that much to the experience. So I looked at the example. There's a multi-camera example in the OVR SDK, but according to this post that Cyber Reality pointed me to, there, and thank you very much for that. There's problems with it, the way that it ships. So there's instructions on how to fix it to to work, because it doesn't work as shipped apparently. So what I've got here seems to be, it looks very similar to what I saw in the example. So here is my craft, and in it there is a near controller and a far controller. And the difference basically is I'm not going but mostly on I'm not going on depth, but I'm going really on a culling mask where I put everything in the cockpit. I make it on the layer. Let's see, HUD, cockpit. Yeah, it has to be, the cockpit is on layer cockpit. And the idea is this near camera, the near controller right here, if we look at the left camera, see it's going to only render cockpit stuff and nothing else. And the same with the right too. So if I look at the, well, here's the settings here. It said to make the near rig you're going to clear depth only, and the far rig you're going to clear the skybox. And the near rig is 1, the far rig is 0. So let's look at it the other way. Far rig is the first one, is depth 0. And you clear the skybox, then the near rig is depth 1 and you clear depth only. So let's look at what I got. Near rig, or the far rig. We're clearing the skybox, and we're culling everything, but we're culling the cockpit. We're not going to draw the cockpit. And same thing for here. We've got the clipping planes at 10 meters and 2000 for the far. I don't even know if I really need to do that because I have a culling mask on there, but it is for stuff outside of the cockpit. So I've got that one, and then on the near one, let's make sure these were also layer or depth 0, depth 0. Now this one, the near one, these are both depth 1, and they are set to clear the depth only, not the skybox, according to this right here. So when I hit play, here's what happens. What I see down here is that it's kind of working, at least in the editor, but that for some reason I've got this constrained viewport. So if I turn the near off, there, that looks right. There's our far camera. That, in fact, if I go up to here to the left camera, and if I change the color, if I include cockpit, there it shows the cockpit, because that's kind of far away. If I want to clip in closer, there it is. So there's a regular camera. Now we want to cull the cockpit. There it is. It's gone. And I can set this back up to 6. So now what happens when I turn on the near controller, it layers on top, but you see how the cockpit's edges are out beyond the edges of the lens correction, and I'm wondering if it has to do with the lens correction running twice. If it doesn't, there must be some way to get this lens correction to work properly, if that's what it is, with 2 camera controllers. So I'm hoping. Well, there's just the near, and that looks really weird probably because there's nothing below it. So it's the clear flags are all weird with that. But if you turn this back on, there it is. Oh, and if I run this in the gear, if I build this and run it into the gear, it's not just, it doesn't have a smaller view in the gear, but what it does is just every time I do head tracking at all or move my head at all, it flashes wildly between two different images, and it's completely wrong. So I'm hoping I might someone out there might be able to help me figure this out, because I think this could be a really big win for Gear VR games in general, to be able to render certain stuff monoscopically.